survey students. We have here the Ice Age Big Chill Farmhouse. During that time, the earth cooled 4 degrees. So I'm going to put down -4, and you'll know that's the 4 degrees. And we will try and post a video. If not, we will show it in class. I find these come out better if you outline your edges with black so that they're easier to see. This would have been straw or even weeds. They would just something on the top to keep the heat in. And if you've ever been in a barn in the summertime, you know that this generates a lot of heat. And you never want to put your hay or your straw in the barn before it's completely dry. Now, if you got a watercolor set, you know that you can watercolor. If you have crayons, use crayons. It's kind of whatever you got. And this right here is the hole where the smoke comes out. And I just use a regular pencil. Try not to cover your words because you need those for the test. If you have not taken the Quizlet test, please do so. I gathered yesterday in class that some people hadn't seen that they are to take that. So I'm going to make sure that you see that. And I will be nagging, as I want to do. And I will see most of you next week. Oh, there's Larry yelling at people. Yes, well, that's his job. Now, if you were in class or if you've listened to the video, you know that these are just squared off trees that they built these houses out of. And they had no fireplace. They had what we would call a fire pit on the floor in the middle of the room, and that was kept going. And we'll see that even in castles in the beginning too, which you'll find, maybe you'll find interesting. Now, when you're coloring water, and this is water, I'd use green and blue and maybe a little brown because the water would have some dirt in it. The dirt tends to go to the bottom, so they would skim the clean water off the top. And gotta do this really fast, so. And it would have blue in it a little bit because the blue would be reflected from the sky. So that's when you're painting a picture of a street scene now, you would, and don't go solid, but notice how I'm trying to mimic the movement of the water. It's one of my favorite things to paint is water. So make your movement move. I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and then I'll go over it with a thin layer of sort of a blue-green, and it'll look pretty good. All right, let me go over here. Make sure your water goes on the other side of your bridge, because water needs to flow. And these are brown, and then the walls themselves, they're just going to be kind of a mud color. So if in the top of your paint sets, there's this little, it's called a palette, P-A-L-E-T-T-E. And you often get these kind of grimy colors from mixing in it. And those would be perfect for the color of your building, which is made out of mud and all sorts of disgusting things. In class, we talked about it. They would take horse and cow dung, and probably sheep dung if they had a lot of sheep, and they would make it out of that. There would not be many windows in this. I think I'll paint a little bit in there. The reason that, well, first of all, windows let in cold air, and they were trying to keep the cold air out, not let it in. The other thing would be, at least later in Europe, they would tend to tax people by the number of windows. So if you saw a really old house that had lots of windows, that meant the people were very, very rich. Originally, they would have sheepskin on the windows, and that's called vellum, V-E-L-U-M. E-L-L-U-M. And when you come to class, we will do some stuff with that. You want to put green here. And if you've got crayons, they're great for drawing over because they resist the watercolor and it looks more textured. This is the road here. It would just be brown dirt. It wouldn't be anything extra. So I'm gonna make some brown dirt here. And it turned to mud the minute that things were bad outside. And it would freeze and it would ice up. And it was, I think, must have been very disgusting wearing those long dresses women wore. And it would drag the mud around. You had to get used to being dirty, I guess, in those days. Because it was really disgusting. Okay, so this is our road going up and over the bridge. And even if this, well, we know it's stone underneath, but it wouldn't show because it would all get covered with mud. Okay, when you do the sky, you know, a lot of people say, well, what color is the sky? Well, look out the window. Now, granted, today is kind of a pale blue day. And I'm going to paint over my words, let that dry, and then color them in. So I'm going to give it, if your color is too intense like that, just add more water. That's the great thing about watercolors. And yes, it is all soupy, but that's okay. You're going to, when you need to bring this, by the way, to class, and we will actually put sparkles on it to be snow, because they started getting snow in odd times, like July and August, because that was the little ice age. So I'm going to let that dry. Then I'll go over the Big Chill little ice age, Big Chill. I'll go over it with color. Probably an orange, because orange is a complement to blue, and it'll pop out from there. I'm going to also make a green here and do light green over there. Don't worry about your green being kind of a stupid green, because we're going to be putting snow over it anyway. So the green that comes in these sets is strange. I've never seen a green like that. You can add yellow to it if you want it to be more realistic. I got a chicken there. He got on the other, he walked over the bridge, and now his owner's probably going to have to go get him, because I doubt that he has sense enough. Chickens are not very bright. They're funny, but they're not very bright. They remind me of penguins. Okay, is that dry enough? Let's see. Yes. So if we just take water and go over the water with water, go over the water with water, go over the water very lightly, you begin to get the movement of the water. And I'll get our chicken here in a minute. Gotta make him stand out so his owners can go get him. People have chickens in the city now. My daughter has chickens, and they're all named. It's funny. So, a little more. Ah, too yellow. Unless that's a field where they got the hay and stuff. Okay, and this will look better when it dries. Put a little green along there. So, that is what it should look like. I'll put some mud on our house here. It would get grungier and grungier. And eventually, when they develop paint, then people would paint over the top of it. But it's amazing to me that these are still in use in England. I didn't get to wander around France as much as I did England. I think the next time we'll wander around France. I'll get my French friend to take us around. Here's our chicken. His mommy's going to have to go get him. Okay, so you color the whole image. And I'm struggling now on whether or not to put this on this quarter or next quarter. because I've noticed that a lot of you did not do the Quizlet, and you've got to do the Quizlet. So we're going to move it to the top of the page and see if you notice it. And that is all she wrote for today. Put my rough, you can put some streaks in there. And that's what it looks like.